Welcome back to Axis Anime. My name is Henshin Ikeda, and today I'll be doing a walkthrough and review of Naruto Shippuden episode 303. Now, if you remember from last episode, we get to see the second Maso Cage take out Oniki, but he didn't. In fact, Oniki is not dead. That was a clone, a sand clone, thanks to Gaara. So instead, apparently the second Maso Cage takes out a clone, so Oniki's actually alive, and I thought that was hilarious. Now we are taken to a different scene with the second Maso Cage, and he uses something called the Infinite Explosion Ninjutsu, and he apparently summons a steam imp, which appears out of nowhere. And I'm like, oh great, so the second Maso Cage has a bitch, and his bitch is called a steam imp. I'm like, really? It just got interesting. Kind of. I mean, just a little bit. However, I'm not even going to describe the fight because we're taken to a different scene with Gaara, and he actually defeats the Steam Imp over time, of course, using one of his father's techniques, using gold. I love how it turns out. I mean, we see the Steam Imp, and he's like a gold bar, technically. He's like a gold statue. I'm like, wow, really? We didn't even get to see the fight really extend. It just was a cut and dry fight, and I loved it. It was pretty good, in my opinion, anyways. And I should point out the second Maso Cage is now sealed, so he is done. And toward the end of the episode, we get to see Mu. Mu is back. Kabuto resurrects, I guess, part of Mu, because apparently Mu has two parts of himself. One of them sealed, so he's not fully strong right now, so the other part of him escapes. And that's where the episode ends, and I'll hold my final thought and rating at the end of the clip, so stay tuned. But let's dive right on in. So we open up this episode with Durya. If I pronounce his name wrong, I apologize, but I want to be sarcastic right now because you know what? He's not my favorite character, but I love his black lightning technique he uses, his Jutsuo, whatever you want to call it. I love it. But again, we open up this episode with Daryu, and there, I pronounced his name somewhat right. There you go. Anyways, we open up with Daryu, and he's actually defeating all the white Zetsui. We see all these white Zetsui bodies around him, so he's pretty much done. And it looks like he's about to walk away from the fight, or at least rest a little more and relax. And then it looks like the allied shinobi, two of them, appear right behind him to inform him of something in general, just to give him an update on what's happening. You should rest. And apparently Daryu figures out, wait a minute, one of you is a white Zetsui, and he just notices, I guess, the kunai knife, and he attacks one of the guards, or one of the allied shinobi in general. And the other guy was just freaked out. This other allied shinobi, which is a real allied shinobi, is just like a ghost. His face is like, don't kill me, type of an appearance. I thought it was hilarious. But again, Daryu does win in general, and he starts to retreat back, kind of, to rest more. Now, we are taken to a different scene with Shikamaru. Now, Shikamaru actually points out where the white Zetsui stand, like what's their real strategy, kind of. And I'm like, okay. And he actually says it's kind of getting risky. We don't know who's on whose side in general. I mean, he sees all the allied shinobi around him, and he can't even figure out who's on his side. I mean, who's a white Zetsui and who's an allied shinobi, so it's getting kind of risky. So he wants to stay, he doesn't want to go anywhere, and he basically wants to wait for the headquarters to contact them about their plan, inform them what's the next step. Obviously that's Naruto. He's going to show up eventually, since he's the only character right now that can sense who's a white Zetsui and who's not. So it kind of makes sense. However, we are taken to a different scene with Orochimaru's former bitches. Yeah, the Sound 4. I totally forgot these guys because technically they're dead, or they were dead, but now they're reanimated. So Kabuto resurrects these guys, the Sound 4, and they appear. I'm like, this is nostalgia. I almost forgot about these guys. It's been how many years? And they come back? No, I did not see this coming. Okay, maybe in the manga there was a lot of hints and such that I picked up on before I skipped chapters, but I'm not going to get into detail about that. Sorry, I digress. However, the Sound 4, they are back. I'm like, wow. Now, we are taken to a brief little cutscene with Shikamaru, and Shikamaru's actually, he has a flashback of the Sound 4 in general and how they abducted Sasuke. I'm like, okay. Again, more nostalgia. However, we are taken to a different scene with Choji and everyone else. Now, here's the plan. Apparently, Shikamaru wants to take Choji, and they're going to actually attack the intruders, which is the Sound 4, while the allied shinobi are not going to go anywhere. In fact, Shikamaru actually tells the allied shinobi, you guys are not going to go anywhere. If any of you move toward us to help us, attack that person, because they're probably the white Zetsui. I'm like, okay, that's a plus and minus type of strategy. On the plus side, you get to find out who's the white Zetsui if they attempt to try to help you. On the downside, if someone even sneezes and falls forward, you'd be killing an innocent person. So that's kind of a risky plan, but at least you get to catch the imposter if they try to help. Well, I mean, in worst case scenario, they don't try to help you. They try to knock you off or kill more allied shinobi. But you know what? It's still a plan. At least it's something. Again, that's where we open up with. Moving on past that, we are taken to a different scene with Hanada and Neji. And all I can say is I can't wait to see what Hanada is actually going to do. However, Neji is, I don't know, he's a little more agitated than normal. Because, you know, he's being forced to save all these allied shinobis with Hanata, and I think his power's kind of draining. I mean, it looks like it's getting to him, kind of, or maybe that's just me. It might just be me. But anyways, we open up this scene with Hanata and Neji, and they're saving the allied shinobi who are actually caught in this chakra-type spider web. So it looks kind of familiar to at least Neji anyways. And apparently Hanata and Neji are using Gentle Fist because that's the only thing that can actually free the allied shinobi in general, which, okay, yes, it kind of makes sense. However, Neji, he actually wants to take down the culprit. So Neji wants to go out on his own to take out this culprit who's setting up these spiderweb little chakra traps. I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense. And he wants Hanata to stay behind to free up the rest of the allied shinobi. So he's leaving back the only person that can actually help him, just so he can gallivant off by himself to do his own thing. Okay, yeah, that's typical, right? I thought he had more sense than that this is probably a trap, but you know what? I like where it went regardless. Now we are taken to a different scene with the matchup, but before I get to that, we do a brief flashback of every single, you know, Hidden Leaf character that fought the Sound 4, and it was kind of annoying. Although it was nostalgia, it was annoying and a waste of time to watch it. But moving on past that again, the matchup. Who is fighting who? Okay, it's no surprise. Everyone's fighting the exact same person they were fighting before. So the original Sound 4, or I should say the only Sound 4 members we see, which are 4 of them obviously, they're fighting their exact counterparts who defeated them before. So we see Choji versus Cherubu. If I pronounce his name wrong, who the hell cares? I don't even like him. But anyways, Choji versus, yeah, Jorabu. I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense. Then we see Kiba versus, you know, Seikon and Yukon. No surprise there. And Kudamaru versus Neji. That's kind of, I can't wait to see that fight. And it was kind of drawn out-ish. But, you know, it did go somewhere eventually. Now we get to see Taiyaya versus Shakamaru. And I hate her annoying goddamn flute. I swear to God. At first I thought it was interesting to hear it the first time, you know, all those years ago. Now it's more or less, it's not nostalgia, it's just an annoying piece of crap. But anyways, we do see Taiyaya, and she plows right through the allied shinobi. Yeah, this is Taiyaya. She's just killing the allied shinobi left and right. And she doesn't give a damn about who's in front of her. She really does not care. Now we are taken to a different scene with Neji, and he's actually hit directly by an arrow. I'm like, is Neji already dead? Wait, no. This can't be right. It's Neji. It's Neji. Byakugan, you know, it's Neji. No, he's not dead. The arrow that actually hit Neji, it hit him directly, but that wasn't really Neji. He did a little switch at the last moment, so it kind of makes sense. Now we are taken to a different scene with Shakamaru. He's actually caught by Taiyaya. I'm like, Shakamaru, you should know Taiyaya, plain and simple. You battled her before. You, seriously? As soon as I saw this part, I'm like, he's got to have something planned. If he did this on purpose, it makes sense. But if he walked right into this, something just doesn't feel right. But anyway, Shakamaru is caught by Taiyaya. I'm like, damn it, already? So we're taken to a different scene with Shakamaru, and he's smiling. Now he blocks his ears apparently. He puts something in his ears because we see something. And I'm like, so he can't hear the flute. And he starts to smile. I'm like, aha, he's got something there. Come on, once you see that goddamn smile on Shakamaru's face, you know he had this move planned out 3-4 moves ahead of what was actually occurring, so he knew what was going to happen. This is what I was expecting. That is what I was looking forward to seeing, which is why I actually enjoyed the fight to an extent. Now, I should say, in short, all the Sound 4 members were defeated. I'm not going to describe their fight too much because it was worth watching, but it wasn't drawn out because, I mean, right off the bat, I knew the Sound 4 were going to be defeated. They're not dead. They're reanimated shinobi, but they're not dead. They're defeated. I'm like, okay, so it's done. So we're taken to a different scene with Naruto, and he senses something fuzzy. This is Naruto. He's, you know, we don't know where he's heading to. We can assume he's heading to Shakamaru, but I could be wrong. But anyways, Naruto, he's just heading somewhere, and he senses something evil, something fuzzy. What are you, a goddamn Jedi? You sense something in the Force? Why can't they just be very direct with what they sense? I sense something big, black, something scary. Come on, be direct. If you can sense something, you probably have an image. Let's see that goddamn image. But sorry, I digress. Now, we are taken to a different scene with the Sound 4. Like I said, they're defeated, but they're not out for the count. In fact, Yeah, they are not out. The Sound 4 are alive, and they're picking themselves back up, even though they're technically dead. They're reanimated, so they weren't sealed, so obviously they're still alive to an extent. And they use something called a transportation Jitsuo formula, underworld transfer. I'm like, son of a bitch, they had a backup plan. Kabuto, you son of a bitch, you had a plan up your sleeve the whole time. Anyways, they use something called the transportation Jitsuo formula, underworld transfer, on Choji, Neji, Shikamaru, and Kaiba, or Kiba, depending on how you want to pronounce his name. Anyways, all 4 of them are hit with this special Jitsuo, and they disappear. We don't know where they're being transported to anime-wise. I'm not going into manga details, and I never will. But anime-wise, they're transported to somewhere we don't know. And I'm like, fuck, you're leaving us with a cliffhanger? It was getting good. And again, toward the end of the episode, we get to see Naruto, and he senses what has actually occurred, and that's where the episode ends. As for final thoughts, well, first of all, where were all 4 of these characters transported to? We really have no idea, anime-wise, so that kind of baffles me. And where is Naruto heading? Is he heading to where Choji and everyone else was kind of at, where Shikamaru and Kiba were at, Neji? Or is he heading somewhere else, like more toward the front lines? We don't really know, so that kind of bothers me. Now, surprisingly, we haven't seen Sasuke yet, or Itachi, and hopefully we're going to see one of them soon. Hopefully Itachi, not so much as Sasuke, because I could care less about him. But again, I can't wait to see where Itachi's at and what he's going to be doing. But again, that ends it for my final thoughts. Nothing special, nothing direct. I wanted to make it short and sweet, and that's what I did. Moving on past that, as for my final thoughts, okay, this should get a 3.5 out of 5, plain and simple, because the fights were not freaking drawn out. I'm giving this a 4. A lot of you are probably looking at me saying, Henshin, what the hell? Now, I'm giving this a 4 because of the nostalgia, and that's it. I love seeing the Sound 4. I mean, I didn't even think they were going to make an appearance during this whole Allied Shinobi, thing going on, this fight. But you know what? They came back, and we had 4 different fights. We got to see a lot of characters, no new information. There was no new information except for the transportation Jitsuo formula underworld transfer. That was it. That's all we got. That was the information. The fights were somewhat there, but not on their mark. And no new information, no drama, no romance crap, that's gone. But seeing Shikamaru with that smile on his face right in front of Tayaya, I always pronounce her name wrong, by the way, because I love fucking it up. It's fun. Tayaya. No, I'm just kidding. Tayaya was so like, what? I like it. He's like his hands down, he's standing up straight and he's smiling, and I loved it. But again, final rating 4 out of 5. And that ends it for my walkthrough and review of Naruto Shippuden episode 303. But definitely comment down below, let me know, thumbs up, thumbs down, definitely subscribe, check me out on Twitter, and follow me if you like. But let me know what you think of this episode, and let me know what you think's gonna happen in the next episode that's coming out. But again, guys, that ends it for now, and I gotta hit the bricks, I gotta go. And before I go, I gotta say it, and I always say it, you can't stop the access, but you can watch the feed. I'll see you later, guys.